Hey, y'all, and welcome back to the Celestial Garden Show. I'm your host, Shanice, and this is your weekly transit talk where we break down the astrology for the week ahead so you can move through it with more clarity, alignment, and intention. This episode is for the week of May 5th through May the 11th, 2025. And honestly, this week is bringing in a turning point. There might be a situation that calls for a decision, one that could shift things in a major way. After sitting with the transits this week, it feels like we are taking a test, and the test that we are taking will be graded on next week during the Scorpio Full Moon, which is happening on May the 12th. That's next Monday. But as far as this week, Spirit might be asking us to slow down and really observe ourselves, like asking questions, like, have you actually been paying attention to what you're thinking? What are you choosing, and what are you still holding on to? The astrology started to make even more sense to me when I pulled the tarot cards for the week. And the main card that came out was the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Now, reversed, this card kind of gives like that Venus and Aries energy, which Venus is in Aries right now. Even though, yes, it's an earth sign card, but it's reversed. So this energy, or the Knight of Pentacles, when it is reversed, it can show up as being impatient, ungrounded, and burnouts creeping in. So grounding this card was the King of Cups, which I absolutely love seeing it because I was kind of uncomfortable seeing the Knight of Pentacles reversed, just for my personal self, like seeing the transits and seeing what was activated this week. So seeing the King of Cups was like really grounding and refreshing to see, because it reminds us that even if things feel messy or off physically, emotionally, we are being reminded to come back to our center. So it's asking us to check in. And the King of Cups in this reading, it feels like Saturn in Pisces right now at the final degree, which is like a very wise energy at the final degree of Pisces. And it's prepping for its ingress into Aries, which I think is happening on May the 24th. So you'll have to adjust to your time zone, but it'll be around May the 24th or the 25th. But overall, these cards together are basically saying you don't have to fix everything right now. You just need to feel it without letting it control you. And there's wisdom in slowing down and talking to God or your spirit team and asking yourself, is what I'm still doing aligned with what I want? Like, are your desires matching up with your actions? And that's exactly what this week's astrology is highlighting. Not just that, but Venus is beginning to form a trine to Mars in Leo. So this is aligning our actions with our desires. And Mercury will conjunct Chiron in Aries this week, before it enters Taurus on the 10th. So Venus will also be talking to Pluto, which is retrograde, in Aquarius as of the 4th of this month, May. So this week, expect some insights around what you've outgrown mentally, and also how you can communicate, like how we can communicate when we are triggered with this Chiron energy being activated with Mercury. So expect some sort of communication or conversation that might trigger you earlier in this week, and you might be thinking about it all week. But we do start to move into more stable energy after this full moon in Scorpio. It might be a little chaotic and ungrounded, but we'll start to have a bit more clarity as Saturn moves into Aries. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but we'll feel a lot more grounded in what we should be doing. And what we need to feel more stable in as we move forward. So, emotionally, you might notice things start to stir up as the week progresses because we are getting closer to the full moon. So, if you're feeling it, you are not by yourself. All right, so before we get into this week's astrology, I want to circle back to some astrology that's been playing out in real time because the stars have been talking real loud. First up, we have Beyonce and her sales for Cowboy Carter. The tour reportedly isn't doing well. And there was even a clip going around on TikTok showing her almost getting injured by like the robotic arms that are holding like the frames during the cozy performance. And y'all know that I talked about this already. So like Beyonce confirmed her birth time right as Mars was entering Leo. And she's an Aries rising. So she has Aries at the 29th degree, which is an anaretic degree. And this degree is tied to fame, pressure, and karmic visibility. And she's currently in her Mars return with Mars back in Leo right now. And that Mars is beginning to form a trine to Venus in Aries, like I mentioned earlier. So, this is what's interesting. Venus entered last week Aries, and immediately there was like a noticeable shift in energy around her tour, more critique and like people having less grace for her because, you know, she is such a great artist and she's like a lot of people's guys. That's what I say all the time because people worship this lady. Um, and if you follow me, you know that I made a video back on February the 11th, right before the Leo full moon. So that was like a day before. And I was predicting some of this going on with her tour. And that full moon was happening, the full moon in Leo in February. It was happening in Beyonce's fifth house. And it was forming a square to her natal Scorpio moon and natal Uranus in her eighth house. And at the same time, the sun in Aquarius was forming a square to Uranus in Taurus. And in my natal chart, the full moon was conjunct my natal Jupiter, and it was exactly conjunct my natal Mercury in Leo. Both of us have that fifth house in Leo. I'm an Aries rising as well. So yeah, I felt it coming. So that's why I made that video. And a lot of people thought I was being a hater or just being, you know, rude or, you know, what, I don't know. I don't know what people were thinking. I'm just telling you some of the comments that I was getting. But um I just want to say that I honestly don't like reading celebrity charts unless I really feel called to. And not to brag, like I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm really good at what I do. So when I tap in, it feels really, really intimate. Um, and it's not gossip for me. It's like a spiritual download, like spiritual intel, a straight connection to source. So when I do share these insights, it's from a place of reverence for astrology as a tool for truth and not for clout. Like I don't want to use this for clout. That's not my goal and that's not my intention. And I saw in Beyonce's chart, um, there was a major Saturn opposition in Virgo when Saturn was around 11 degrees Pisces. So that was like around late 2024. I think, don't quote me, I didn't get the dates forward. But that opposition with Saturn in Pisces in Beyonce's 12th house opposing her Virgo sun in the 6th house, that opposition is low energy and it's restructuring type of energy. So Saturn in Pisces, to me, reading her chart as an astrologer, was asking her to rest, to retreat, and to prepare for a new Saturnian cycle once it enters Aries. Because when Saturn enters your first house, this is where you feel more restricted, and sometimes you can feel like pressure from your responsibilities and people that you are in relationships with. And she's a huge star, so this Saturn cycle is going to be really big for her because she has that Libra stellium in her 7th house. So I say all of this to say, like, has she rested? Absolutely not. Since 2022, she released Renaissance. She's done a world tour. She performed for the NFL. She released an alcohol, like what, Sir Davis. She released Cowboy Carter, and she's now touring again. And this is just not sustainable. Not spiritually and not physically. And Venus conjunct Neptune in Aries last week may have gave her like a little whisper or a sign, like to her spirit, if she's paying attention, like a signal that it's okay to soften up, to show your human side, and that she doesn't have to prove anything. She's already done enough. Like, she's a mega star. She's amazing. She's like, just listen to yourself, listen to your body. I know that might be hard for her to do because she is a Scorpio moon and it's in the 8th house. So that's where she stores her trauma. And like, this Mars square her natal Scorpio moon that's coming up like towards the end of May. Honestly, I think that it's going to like shake up some things even more for her and her fans. This is the beginning of like a multi-year reckoning around Beyonce's relationship with perfection and performance. To me, her chart is showing us that, spiritual exhaustion of the Black feminine archetype. The pressure to be superwoman 24/7, not just for her, but for every woman, specifically, no shade, Black women like us. Like, we try to be superwoman, and she's like the epitome of that energy for us collectively. So this is like, showing something, like, not just for her, but for everybody who's been taught that survival equals excellence. And now the astrology is asking, what if you didn't have to carry it all anymore? Like, she can go to Walmart now. I really think she can go to Walmart now. Like, if she wants to, she can do it. So let's shift gears. I want to touch on the DL discourse that's happening on TikTok. There's this account called the DL Whisper, and he's exposing, and I put that around, like, some air quotes around that, traits of down low men. Now, look, I'm not getting into any drama, okay? But I do want to talk about the astrology, okay? I'm going to be real. I'm going to be honest. My Mercury conjuncts my natal Jupiter in Leo, square my Scorpio moon. I've thought about this a lot, and I think before I speak, okay? So I'm going to give y'all the astrological perspective of this DL discourse. And this is very Neptune in Aries coded. Neptune rules illusions and secrets and even mental health. And being DL to me is a reflection of some unhealed wounding and, honestly, like, some mental illness, not just like sexuality, but shame. That's Neptune. Like, that is so Neptune coded. And Neptune was in Pisces since 2011, keeping a lot of what society wants hidden. But now that it's moved into Aries, people are speaking up, and the mask are slipping. The illusions are holding like they used to. Aries is fast, or not like they used to. They aren't holding like they used to, because Aries is fast, it's direct, it's raw. And Neptune here doesn't do illusions the way Pisces did. It breaks them apart, and sometimes violently, because it's that Aries energy, the sign of war. So predict or expect, honestly, when Saturn moves into Aries, it's going to make people more comfortable. Um, and it's going to ruin a lot of people's fantasies. Okay, so now the last thing I want to touch on or recap is well, not necessarily recap because his trial starts tomorrow. As I'm recording this, or not tomorrow, Tuesday. So May the 6th is when Diddy's case or trial officially begins. So I haven't seen a lot of updates lately. And to be honest, I haven't really been keeping up with a lot on social media. I've been trying to like detox from it a little bit. Um, the only thing that I've seen, and I think this was last week, so it was him not accepting a plea deal, which I think he'll regret later, to be honest, looking at his chart. I don't have like a birth time for him. But right now, Venus and Neptune in Aries are forming a conjunction in his natal, with his natal Chiron in Aries. So I don't, like I said, I don't have his birth time, but I did do some chart rectification. And if you don't know what that is, that's basically just going and reviewing major events or transits and seeing what was activated in his chart. And after doing that, I'm leaning more towards like him being ruled by Venus. At first, I thought it might have been like a Jupiter. He might have been ruled by Jupiter, but I think it's Venus being his chart ruler, based on like past transits. And this Venus Neptune Chiron activation in Aries in his chart, it's screaming wounds around desire, um, his ego and intuition. And it's acting from a place of spiritual disconnection because Venus is in Aries right now and it's conjunct his natal Chiron and it's opposing Uranus. So that's how poor decisions get made in astrology in so many words. So Diddy's also got that Uranus and Libra opposite that Aries energy. So this ain't just about him. With that Uranus and Libra, other people are definitely involved, and this trial could shake up things in Hollywood, like period. Um, Good or bad. Like I don't know if he's innocent. And from what I know and what I've seen growing up from watching Making the Band, I don't think he is. But, you know, he is innocent until proven otherwise. So, or guilty until proven, however it goes. But that's all I've got for the recap this week. Personally, I don't have any personal transits or big stories to share about like what was going on in my life with the astrology. I've just been watching the astrology unfold in everybody else's life and kind of like letting it validate the things that I've been saying and holding on to for a while. All right, so let's get into the daily breakdown. Starting with Monday, May the 5th, the moon is in Virgo. And so Monday starts off with Mercury in Aries, sextile Jupiter in Gemini, and the moon is in Virgo. So this is giving clear mind and busy hands type of energy. You might feel like you are catching or you're finally catching on to something that's been sitting on what am I trying to say? Catching up on something that has been sitting on your to-do list for a long time. You might actually feel mentally sharp on Monday, and grounded to do something. So to start something. Monday, it's a mix of some clarity with a bit of curveballs too. You could wake up feeling a little bit frazzled with the moon squaring Uranus, but by midday, things should smooth out. The moon in Virgo brings is well on Monday. It's bringing kind of like let it fix itself type of vibe. You know, like it'll work out. So some positive expressions on Monday or Monday's energy would be productive conversations or brainstorming some ideas, finding something that finally or finishing something that finally you felt mentally stuck with for a long time, or getting clear about your next steps. So, some challenging expressions of Monday's energy would be you overthinking the small details, criticizing yourself for not having it all together, and jumping to fix things before actually listening. So, try to ground yourself with that Earth moon energy, that Virgo moon. So, some things that you can do on Monday, write out your priorities for the week. This is a good day to, use your planner if you don't, and jot some things down, make that grocery list or make that list out. Follow through on any idea that you had last week, some ideas that you've been postponing. Um, you should have some clarity on Monday on whatever it is that you've been stuck on. You should have some clarity in regards to how you should move forward. So don't be afraid to ask questions if you are confused about anything. If you are at work or at school, take it how it resonates. So let's move on to Tuesday. The moon is still in Virgo and it will go void late Tuesday night. So Tuesday might feel chaotic. It might feel like a lot. We have Venus sextile Pluto and then Mercury forming a conjunction with Chiron. So there's some tenderness, some wound activation, but it's also some power struggles in the midst of it. It's like you're getting a chance to say something real or see someone for who they really are, and it might hit a little too hard or a little too deep on Tuesday. So this energy is a heart meets healing type of day with Chiron being activated by Mercury. You might feel triggered, or you might feel raw, or you might get triggered by someone. But if you stay open, something meaningful could come from that trigger or that, tense conversation. So conversations could take a turn into some emotional or spiritual territory real quick on Tuesday. So just be mindful of that. Some positive expressions of Tuesday's energy would be to have a deep conversation that shifts your perspective, reclaiming your voice after being wounded or, hurt, seeing the beauty in vulnerability. If you do feel sensitive, give yourself grace. You are human, there's beauty in it. So, some challenging expressions of Tuesday's energy would be holding on to wounds, and really not having any real reason why you're holding on to them. You're just holding on to them just to hold on to them. You could be projecting your pain onto someone else, or you could be getting caught in like what if situations, stuck in your head. So some things that you can do on Tuesday is journal before reacting. Let yourself be seen, even if it's messy, and reflect on your emotional patterns. Where can you stop doing things that are no longer in alignment with where you're trying to go? So let's move on to Wednesday, May the 7th. The moon will be in Virgo. Then it will go void again. So this is a good day to kind of like, you know, not really allow the stress to get the best of you. If you were triggered on Tuesday, the Virgo moon is stirring up some tension on Wednesday. So you might feel pulled between logic and chaos, or structure and surprise. If you're feeling a little bit snappy, you are not alone, but try not to take it too personally and try not to take it out on anybody. So Wednesday's energy is like a pressure cooker type of energy. Like you feel that's that energy of like that test starting to build up. You've gotten a message earlier on Monday and Tuesday, and by Wednesday, like you feel the need to react or, to respond. But this is telling you to tighten up your boundaries. Or some positive expressions of this energy is to tighten up your boundaries, realizing where you need more emotional structure, and finally seeing what's not working. Some challenging expressions of Wednesday's energy is getting stuck in control mode, feeling like you're failing just because things are moving slowly and wanting answers that aren't here yet. Venus is in Aries. I cannot stress this enough to be patient. Ground yourself. Last week I mentioned starting a garden or using your hands, getting crafty. This week would be a good week to really implement those things because of this Venus and Pluto energy. Even though it's a sextile, a lot of people don't think that sextiles don't manifest because they read that they aren't as strong as trines, but that's not the case. Sextiles are very potent and they are usually like some form of synchronicity or pattern that you've been, doing for a while that you are comfortable in, and it's hard for you to break sometimes. That's how a sextile can manifest. So pay attention to the things that, aren't necessarily spoken or you can't necessarily see but feel. Pay attention to the song downloads that you get this week, the synchronicities that you notice. Pay attention to any angel numbers that you get this week as well. This will be a good week to pay attention to all of the spiritual signs and pray. So what you can do, some other things that you can do with Wednesday's energy is take breaks before making a decision. Focus on simple, grounded tasks, and don't let your inner critic run the show. That Virgo moon, especially void, you can get trapped in your thoughts and perfection. So some questions that you can ask yourself on Wednesday: what can I actually control? Where am I putting pressure that doesn't belong to me? And can I let today be enough without fixing everything? So let's move to Thursday, which looks a lot softer and it looks more relational. But there's still some emotional energy that's lingering from earlier in the week. With Venus still in Aries, you might feel torn between wanting peace and wanting to be right. So, with Thursday's energy, the moon is in Libra and it's trying to balance things out. So, if you felt um, unstable earlier in the week, by Thursday, you might start to like make sense on how to take the next step. You'll feel a bit more balanced, but watch for people pleasing with that Libra energy. And it's also talking to Pluto. So this could be some projections. Again, people pleasing could be a huge theme on Thursday. So some positive expressions of Thursday's energy would be to have honest but kind conversations, and do some emotional releases that bring clarity. Also, choosing connections without losing yourself. So, honest connections, getting out of power struggles. Pluto is now retrograde in Aquarius. So, getting out of those power struggle dynamics and calling your power back. Some things that you can do is set clear boundaries with compassion. Practice saying how you actually feel and reconnect to your values in relationships. So Friday, May the 9th, the moon is in Libra and it's void all day. So nothing major is happening on Friday. Transit wise, the moon is void. So don't force anything. It's kind of like a float day, especially with Libra. Do something that makes you feel good. If you're still trying to control or overplan, it probably won't work out. So just relax on Friday. Let it be what it is. Like just let things be. With this energy, it's very low key and internal. Might be even a little sleepy or daydreamy because it's void and it's an air sign. So don't read too much into how you feel on Friday. Um some positive expressions of Friday's energy is letting go of the shoulds, how things should be, resting without guilt, getting some creative downloads through doing nothing, some challenging expressions of Friday's energy, trying to force momentum, trying to do things and constantly meeting resistance, feeling unmotivated and judging yourself for it. Don't feel bad if you feel lazy on Friday. Relax. If you've been feeling burnt out with this King of Pentacles, but Knight of Pentacles showing up this week, reversed, Friday, you deserve it. Relax. So some things that you can do is declutter your mind and your space. If you absolutely feel like you have to do something, decorate your space, make it beautiful. Use that Libra energy in its higher expression. Cook, clean, do something nice. Or not cook. Libras don't necessarily like to cook. They like to get Uber Eats. So Uber eat you something. Go to the restaurant. I don't know. Take out. Do something nice. Indulge on Friday. Um, so make some art, journal, or just simply move slow. Use that stillness on Friday to reconnect with your body. Now on Saturday, um, the moon will be in Scorpio. So we are preparing for the full moon. We have now entered that full moon energy, and the intensity is starting to creep back in. We kind of got a break at the end of the week, but on Saturday, we are feeling that intensity again as the moon enters Scorpio. Mercury is also entering Taurus, the opposite sign of Scorpio, on Saturday. So emotions could feel heavier or more private today. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that what you're feeling is real, especially with the moon talking to Pluto that just stationed retrograde. So this retrograde energy is a bit stronger. It's a bit more intense. So you might be a bit harder on yourself every time there's a transit to Pluto while it's retrograde right now. So this energy is rooted in deep um energy, and it can be a little raw. You may have some strong feelings come up, especially around communication. So if something needs to be said, just say it with some care. It's going to be kind of hard with that Scorpio energy square and Pluto, but be more intentional, be more mindful on Saturday. Some positive expressions of this energy. Um, Being emotionally grounded in your truth, having the courage to go deep and be vulnerable, be honest with that Scorpio energy in the higher expression, and emotional boundaries that feel empowering. So that might empower you in some type of way. That Scorpio energy is ruled by Mars in traditional astrology and Pluto in modern astrology. So it's it's trying to Scorpio is a very vulnerable sign, and it wants to feel trust and intensity. It wants to feel soul level connections. So make sure you are honoring that within your relationships and within your emotions. Some challenging expressions of this energy would be you feeling emotionally shut down. You might be passively trying to control or manipulate things, and speaking from fear instead of love. So, some things that you can do on Saturday is set the tone before you have some deep conversations, write it out before saying it, and just be honest, not harsh. Easier said than done when the moon in Scorpio is squaring Pluto, newly retrograde. So, last day of this week, Sunday, May the 11th, the day before the Scorpio full moon. So Sunday is wrapping up this week's emotional depth, the emotional intensity. The Scorpio moon will be squaring Mars. So it was squaring Pluto the day before, and now it's squaring Mars on Sunday. So we are feeling really raw this weekend. And you might feel passionate, or you might even feel irritable. Um, Use this energy to reflect either way and not explode. It's easier said than done, honestly. This could bring some emotional tension to the surface with the moon squaring Mars, but not necessarily bad. It just could be really, really intense. So just let the information that come in, let it be, and don't fight. Like, just it's easier said than done again with this week's energy, these transits, but try your best to stay grounded in your own energy, call your power back. Even if people are trying to trigger you, don't allow it to interfere with what you are working towards. So Some positive expressions of Sunday's energy would be having the emotional courage to say something or do something. Some passionate creativity with that Mars energy in Leo, or letting go of emotional baggage with that square, seeing the issue and letting it go. So some challenging expressions of this energy would be power struggles, pent up frustrations, and miscommunications that could spark some drama. Some things that you can do on Sunday is channel whatever you're feeling into some art, um, and try to move or do some sort of spiritual practice. Don't take the bait. If people are triggering you this week, especially on Sunday, don't take the bait. Reflect before reacting. Ask yourself, because we're all going through it right now. So some people are just mad and are just they're just trying to trigger you. Like misery loves company. So don't allow them to invite you in. Like stay grounded in who you are and what you are working towards. So that is it for this week's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, or leave a review. And if something in today's episode resonated with you, feel free to tag me in a comment on Instagram or TikTok. I love seeing y'all's transits and interpretations and like how you relate to the astrology. I love it. So if you are interested in learning how to trade using your birth chart, I am working on a project that I will have ready June 1st. So make sure you are signed up to my email list. The link will be in the show notes to wherever you're listening to this on. And you can sign up for my newsletter and you will be updated when that financial astrology course is released. And basically I've got some tools and some resources in the works that'll help you align your schedule with money and your manifestations. And also my goal is to help people obtain financial freedom using their birth chart. And I'm using just facts, no fluffs, no parlor tricks, just straight facts. So if you are interested, again, click the link in the show notes to sign up for my newsletter. All right, y'all, that's it for this week's transit talk. Y'all have a good week, and I will talk to you guys next week. And we'll be talking about the Scorpio full moon on Monday. So I hope you guys have an awesome week and don't allow others to penetrate what you have going on in your inner world.